Welcome back. So who is happier? At least in this conversation, mom or daughter? Who's okay? I have one vote for mom. She's living a carefree life. She doesn't care what other people think. She seems to enjoy her dumpster diving. She's enjoying eating in the restaurant with her daughter, right? She says she doesn't really need anything, vital. Do I have a dissenting opinion? Is the wealthy person happier? Another vote for mom? Yeah, but apparently she wanted to go to the Picasso exhibit, so she went to the Picasso exhibit, right? She finds it interesting. She may not have a job, but she has the time to go there, right? Fabian, you need to have considered two, but you're going to ultimately decide on one controversy. Sorry, a question about an assignment that I'll be talking about soon. Now, does society say that if you look at the definition, who's supposed to be happier? The wealthy woman who lives on Park Avenue or the woman picking through the dumpsters? Hold that thought about the assignment. We will talk about it as soon as we're finished talking about this essay, okay? And then I'll answer your questions. So why isn't the person that society defines as successful the happier person? Have we all been tricked?
You said, why isn't the person higher up in society happier?
That's the votes that I'm getting so far, yes. Unless you disagree.
No, I have to say the daughter's not the happier one. Like, the mom is happier, obviously. But when looking at society today, the people that are wealthy, they tend to have obviously more than the middle or lower class. They're allowing themselves to step on other people, which makes their humanly manners or like their outlook on I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, when they see other people and they step on them like doormats, like, that's why they're not happy, because they're using other people to get to their fame.
Well, you think they're getting some sort of like karma bounce back? That's an interesting theory.
I just feel like as humans, we all should feel for each other. Like, but as soon as you overstep that and you start using people as doormats and stepping on them to step over them, that's when your humanity kind of shuts off.
Mm-hmm. But some people argue, I'll play devil's advocate here, that those people are just lazy. You know, if I have to go to work and earn money, you should have to go to work and earn money. Otherwise, I'm paying for you, right? To
That
live.
it absolutely, that's very true. You know, people look at the world today and they're like, well, you get to sit on your butt at home while I bust my butt all day at work, and you get free stuff and I don't. Like, it's sometimes it's not fair, but you also have to look at it. If they were working, our economy would be better.
Mm-hmm.
If we had over half of the people that have, you know, free things in life working for what they are earning, everything would rise.
You know, what if your definition is being happy is like her mom's definition, though, which is doing what she wants, you know, when she wants, not having a place to live necessarily, but kind of moving from place to place. Does not society generally frown upon that?
Yes, it does, but also looking at that situation, moving around and living how you want to is, I want to say, more normalized now than it was in the earlier 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Being homeless is still kind of looked down upon, but it's different if you're happy with it, I guess. If you're not out there begging people for money, it's different. It's weird because you see beggars and then you're like, well, you shouldn't be homeless, you should work for whatever you need, like blah 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 blah. But if you're not out begging like it's normal, like with quotes around, like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Let me ask you a question. In America, is it immoral to be poor? Is it a crime to be poor in America? I don't know what it's like in other countries. How are the poor viewed in America? Give me some adjectives. Just anything that pops into your mind. You don't have to agree with what the adjectives are, but how you think America in general looks at poor people. Lazy. Overly taxed, like they're poor because they're taxed too harshly. Okay. Uneducated. Needy. Good so far. I'm sensing a trend. So is there a positive view of poor people or a negative view of poor people? Poor because they got sick and lost their job and some bad things happened to them. You know, they're victims of circumstance. Or do we think most people are poor because they're sucking the teat of the welfare system and taking advantage of anyone they can and living off the backs of other people who are hardworking Americans? What do you guys think? Do we demonize the poor? The adjectives so far are mostly intimating it's their fault. More negative, but America doesn't. I'm really kind of interested to see because most of the people who've lost their jobs, right, and need help in the last few months, we clearly know that it's not their fault, right? We've shut a large, sections of our economy down, to prevent the spread of COVID. So even before, you could argue that all of these people don't deserve our help because they're just lazy and uneducated. Yeah, because of the Rona. Yeah. Now, it would be hard to argue that the majority of people who need our help don't deserve it. Are you guys following me? And I just kind of feel like that's been the narrative in America for a while. And I'm interested to see if there's a change in people's attitudes toward the poor. Because, you know, back in the 60s, the Republican platform, part of it was a war on poverty to help people rise out of poverty. And that seems to have shifted. You can argue with me. This would make a good paper topic. Do we view the poor as like being poor because it's their fault? They should have gotten 3 jobs then, or they should have, you know, gone to college, even though college is prohibitively expensive, as I'm sure many of you know, right? But now we have a huge majority of those who are unemployed through no fault of their own, even though they might have been working minimum wage jobs that didn't have health benefits, that didn't necessarily provide for all their needs. That's another question. Yeah, the minimum wage, if anybody's interested in that, that's a good paper topic as well.
Didn't the minimum wage get like raised?
It did. Illinois has enacted a gradual increase in the minimum wage. So like in, what is it supposed to rise to? I think 2011, it's $11. 2012, it's $12. 2013, you see where we're going until we hit $15 in 2015. So if you don't live in Illinois, I'm not sure what it is in your state or your country, or if there is such a thing. But yeah, the minimum wage, if it had been adjusted for cost of living and inflation right now, because you used to be able to live on a minimum wage job and be able to afford a place to live and raise a family, you know. I mean, some people think that should be the minimum wage is enough to, you know, live on. It would be, I think, $23 an hour now if it had gone up in accordance with how expensive it is to live in our country. It might be 22 or 23. Somebody can Google that. Yes. And there are arguments about how that affects businesses, that, you know, small businesses have to pay the minimum wage. They already have to pay health insurance, which seems crazy. I don't know how that system started, but it seems like a bad idea. Because now all those people who lost their jobs lost their health insurance at the worst time to lose their health insurance, right? Because it was tied to their job. They can buy COBRA, like the extra coverage, but that is prohibitively expensive because they have to bear the full cost of it, including what their employer used to pay. And most people who just lost their jobs aren't going to go, yeah, I'll pay an extra $500 just in case I get sick. Yeah. It's an interesting question. Inequality, you know? Is it because some people don't want to play by the rules? Should we play by the rules? You know? I mean, I'm sure everybody's out there like, I don't want to have a job. I want to go do whatever I want. That's communism. But that doesn't work. At least it hasn't worked right well for the way they're doing it in the Soviet Union. Oh, not Soviet Union anymore. Excuse me, Russia. It's just interesting. I'm just interested in, like, if the perception of poverty changes, because it's going to be a while before our economy can come back. And a lot of people are out there suffering through no fault of their own. They can't blame it on them this time. So, I don't know. Some people do, you know, take advantage of the system. So the question is, do we cut off the majority for the people who do that? That's an interesting question also. Does anybody have experience in a different country that they would share that has a different attitude towards the form? I mean, we're also coming from like the Anglo-Saxon history of England, which said if you were born the king, you were meant to be the king. God went, you're the king, and you're a peasant. Just accept it, peasant, right? Basically, you were born to the place or the position that you were meant to. And actually, there's a poet who questioned that in a poem, and they threw him in jail. Because it's called Elegy in a Churchyard. He's basically looking at all of these graves and asking, maybe this person could have been a great ruler, or this girl could have been a great musician, but they never had the education or the opportunity or what have you. And that goes against sort of the idea that people are born into the point in life they should be. You shouldn't get above yourself. So that's sort of the, heritage of our thinking. Most of us came, from England, and then we came from European countries. I don't know. I don't see a lot of happy rich people. I could be wrong. Maybe they're happy. It's the media, yeah. Don't see as many happy poor people either, though. She just brings up a really interesting question of like she's trying to make over her parents' lives, and they're like, we're good. So it's not because they're not happy. I mean, hey, she's got legitimate reasons to be concerned, right? Eating out of dumpsters, probably not really safe all the time. Although I follow some dumpster divers on YouTube, and they pick up perfectly good food a lot of the time. That they can be sure is probably good food. But controversy, reasonable opinions on both sides, right? So yeah, I thought it was an interesting essay because she kind of does a self-own of like, I know I'm too concerned about what other people think of me, and then I'm really concerned about my parents, but on the other hand, they seem happy. I mean, should she try to force them to live the way she thinks is safer? What do you guys think? Actually, Avery, I think the cost of college, I'm looking at reading your point again, the cost of college has probably risen because we injected loans into the process so that people could afford college. But then once you did that, you could start charging more and more and more for college because people could get more loans. Now all of you who are children or, adults are now going into your adulthood carrying, in some cases, massive amounts of debt, right? So yeah, injecting more money does not always address the problem because I think the studies show that college costs have gone up much, much faster, like 2 or 3 times faster than they should be if they were keeping in with like the cost of living. So we see somebody's homeless, and as long as they're not taking money from anybody, are we okay with that as a society? If you're homeless, you're not getting welfare or begging, like she was saying. I'm just interested in what you guys think. Alexa, what do you think?
I think about all kinds of things.
Oh, sorry. My Alexa answered. Lizzie, do I mean she should make them maintain a home and not look through dumpsters? You know, it says she's tried to help them, like, get a place. Oh, okay. Can you read the chat? Talking about living more conventionally, according to society's rules. And, yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that they seem happy, but it could shorten their lives. So there's like unhappy and longer life, happy and shorter life. Guys, that's a hard question. Yeah, I think it's a choice we all have to make. Smoking is bad for me, but if I smoke because it makes me happy, I'm accepting the idea of a longer life to enjoy smoking or eating things that are bad for me. I don't know if we think about it that consciously, like that ice cream has no nutritional value, but how sad would life be without ice cream? For some of us, it would be sad. I don't know. Julia, what do you think? Are some dangerous behaviors worth it? I mean, some people are like going out in public without masks, going to parties. I mean, I've seen a lot of people on TV, and they're like, "Why are you not wearing a mask?" And they're like, "If I'm meant to get it, I'll get it." And I'm just like, but if you can still go out and prevent it, I'm not sure I'm following the logic. Some people believe that God will decide, but that kind of seems like you run off a cliff and then go, "Save me." If you're there, God, right? Like, how much is tempting fate? I don't know. Julie thinks they're not worth it. Julie says it depends. Yes. One lesson I seem to have learned is that balance, when things get out of balance, then you generally have bad results. It happens more often than I would like. Too much of a bad thing, too much of the wrong food, too little sleep, too much, behaving in a way that's detrimental to you, shortens your life significantly. Then living like a nun or a friar might be a little less appealing to some of us. Taking a vow of poverty, no video games, sitting in one place playing video games, yeah. Binge watching things, probably bad for me. But I do so enjoy binge watching. This is a dilemma. I'm not sure it's going to get better as technology advances either. There's another one, technology's effect on society. There's lots of topics you can go to for that one. Any last comments you want to make about a woman on the street? I have a question for you guys. Have you thought about what will make you happy? What kind of life? Like, do you want to make a lot of money? Will that make you happy? Some people it does make very happy. And people's definition of a lot. I mean, they've done studies that show if somebody is at a poverty level where they actually are like lacking food and sanitation and basics, right? They are less happy than people who have money. But once you really reach the level where they have the basic needs covered, people who have enough aren't necessarily less happy than people who have a lot. You know, more money apparently, at least according to that study. That's probably a competing study. Are you working toward what makes you happy? It's an interesting question. All right, let's talk about the assignment. Everybody is very interested in it, so let's look at it. So hopefully you've been reading, right, about some controversial topics. Okay. So the next assignment for this Wednesday, it's a short one. I want to get an idea of what you're thinking about. So the first assignment is called the subject worksheet. Here. So basically, you're just going to answer some questions for me. I want you to have looked at more than one controversy. Remember, I said I want you to have a backup in case the one that you're working on doesn't go well, or you can't find enough research, or you just decide you hate it suddenly. So I do want you to tell me about two controversies that you are considering for your paper, or that you considered. And then which one right now do you think you're going to choose? And why did you choose that subject? And what is your preliminary research question? Or we talked about a worthy question, and the answer to that question will be your thesis. So a possible research question regarding the minimum wage would be, would raising the minimum wage improve, lift people out of poverty? And is that a good thing? So that could be your research question. So you focus your research on the minimum wage as it relates to poverty and studies, you know, because if you give people more money, but then the businesses lay off people because there are cause and effects, right? So there are reasonable opinions on both sides of that. And then finally, do you have any concerns about going out and starting to do the research? Because this gives me some insight on things that I can cover to help you guys see where to go from here. We are going to talk more about using the library. We had a question. So this is under assignments. And it's basically just a little bit of what you've been thinking about. Just a second. In this case, either one. It doesn't matter if you answer them just below the questions or you open a new document. I'm not going to be picky about this one. Okay. So you just basically are giving me an idea of what you've been looking at so far. Here's a couple issues I've looked at and what the controversies are, right? Right now, I think I'm going to talk about the minimum wage. Why? Because I make the minimum wage and I want to see if I made more, if that would help my life improve. Keep an open mind, remember. You want to base your conclusion on the research and not on what you already think. You don't want to start with your answer and then follow the research that supports it. You want to keep an open mind and use the research to come to a informed opinion. What's your preliminary research question? And what are you worried about with this paper so that I know what I can help you guys with? I think I copied it twice, but yeah, you'll turn it in on Brightspace. You'll either write it underneath the questions or you can just attach a new document, copy and paste it, and then attach your answers. So no, you're going to take, like I said, we got 2 final papers coming. This one's going to be 4 pages, roughly 2 pages that talks about one side, 2 pages that talks about the other side of controversy. And you're just going to inform me in this next one. We'll get there in terms of the assignment. Right now, you're kind of working your way up to all the information that you need. You're becoming educated so that you know why we should legalize marijuana for recreational use, or why we shouldn't, why it will hurt the economy and cause crime and increase drug use, or whatever it is, or why it will decrease crime and increase tax money that goes to health care, and yeah, I mean, for this one, if I'm going to let you put the answers to the questions right there, you won't have to use MLA format. If you put it on there, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just getting a sense of what you guys are thinking at this point and making sure that you have actually looked at something. I want to know what 2 topics you've considered. Yes, any persuasive topic that has enough evidence to support it. Because it's a research paper, eventually you'll have to support it with research. You can't just support it with opinions. Abortion, yes, you'd have to narrow it down significantly to one issue, like whether the Supreme Court should overturn Roe v. Wade, or the abortion pill, or whether or not healthcare institutions should be able to refuse things like birth control. I don't know if that's a word. I mean, or some pharmacists have refused to fill prescriptions if they thought they were like abortion pills. So yes, but narrow it down to something that's going on right now regarding abortion. And you can find lots of topics on Opposing Viewpoints, remember, right? On Wednesday, we'll start talking about, once you have your research question, where to start going and doing research. Okay. So Lizzie, does that make sense? You tell me about 2 topics you looked at, and then you tell me which one you picked. Okay, cool. These are good questions to clarify. Does anybody else? So you'll take this topic for the next paper and say, here are what both sides, here are the positions of both sides. Okay. And then the final paper, you'll choose one of those positions and defend it in the paper. Everybody with me? So first, go ahead.
Can you repeat that real quick, please?
You're going to be informed about it and show me both sides in the next paper. And then after you've read and looked at what both sides are saying, you're going to take a position in the final research paper. So this issue will be covered in 2 papers. You will use this issue for 2 papers. One is informative, that's the next one we're doing. And you're just going to say, here's why some people think that legalizing marijuana is positive. Here's why the other side thinks it's negative. You can't cover all of it in 4 pages, but you're going to come up with maybe 3 of the most significant reasons for legalizing marijuana, 3 against it. And then you're going to look at those and go, which way is more convincing to me? And then you're going to argue for it in your final research paper. Avery, your paper should be graded. If it's not, let me go look. I may have missed it. This next paper is 4 pages. The final paper will be 8 to 10 pages, but we're going to work up to it. Do not panic. So like the first draft, I'll be asking you for 5 to 6 pages. I'll give you feedback. I'll give you ideas for where to go from there. Okay? Do not choose a huge topic just because I said that. Please. Start small. You can always make it larger if you need to. Okay? So the final research paper will be 8 to 10 pages long. But you're going to build your case in those pages. So you'll have to give us some background information. You'll have to have an intro technique. You'll have to present all of the sides. You'll have to the opposition, and we're going to talk about how to do all of those things. First, you're going to have to get educated about your issue, and then show me what you learned in the next paper. Inform me. Okay? How's everybody doing out there? So remember, I have the links on Brightspace to opposing viewpoints, to NPR, to Wikipedia, to get an overview. And now is the time that you want to start narrowing down your issue. Abortion is too big. You have to take one element of abortion, like how much should we look at Supreme Court candidates' history in deciding whether or not there's abortion. You know, there's all kinds of issues you can talk about. And they'll be divided up. Some of the perspectives will be on opposing viewpoints. Okay, then I will take a look. Unfortunately, on Brightspace, it's sometimes hard to tell. I thought I had all those done, but I will make sure it gets done. All right, we have a couple minutes left here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this session. I'm going to start a new session for anybody who wants to talk topics or ask questions about anything else. I had some emails. I think I've answered most of the emails, but I think I had some more late last night. So I will answer those, or you can just ask me afterward. And I'll be willing to help you talk about topics and research questions if you still have concerns about that. Okay? So I'm going to end this session. I'm going to open a new one. If you don't have any questions for me, you can start working on the subject worksheet and answering those questions. If you'd like to talk more about it, I will be here until 9:50 to discuss it with anybody who wants to brainstorm. Okay? All right then. I'll see some of you hopefully next session. Otherwise, email me if you have questions, and I will check and make sure all of the papers should be graded.